Hello and welcome to this video. Bhaskar Napte from Pharma Growth Hub this side. And as you can see on the screen, we are going to talk about some of the storage conditions given under different stability requirements. So if you look at the ICH guideline Q1AR2 for the stability of the drug substances and drug products, you will find these four storage conditions. The first one is general case. The second is in case if you intended to store the product at a refrigerator, which is 5 degrees Celsius. The third one is in case if you intended to store the drug product in the freezer condition, that is minus 20 or below that. And the fourth point, which is also given into the ICH stability guideline, that talks about what should be the storage conditions for aqueous-based drug product packaged into a semi-permeable container. In this video, we will talk about the individual storage conditions. In addition to that, I will also brief about some of the conditions which I am not able to understand, and we can have the debate on those points during this presentation. So I also look forward to receive your comments on to some of the questions that I have raised during this presentation. So without wasting much time, let us begin with the point number one, that is the general case. So these are the storage conditions. You will see long-term, intermediate, accelerated. And again, I have compiled storage conditions from ICH stability guideline. You can see in the column number 2, WHO stability requirements and the ASEAN storage conditions. ASEAN stand for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So this group contains 10 different countries, and these countries also have their own stability guidelines because they come from very different the atmospheric conditions like high humid and hot conditions. So because of that, they have published their own guideline. So these are the three important guidelines, ICH, WHO, and ASEAN guidelines that we are going to discuss in this particular presentation. So what is the long-term condition proposed by ICH? The 25 degrees Celsius and 60% relative humidity. Alternatively, ICH also said that the 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH can also be used. So this is the ICH long-term recommended condition. If you look at the intermediate storage conditions recommended by ICH, it is 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH. Similarly, the accelerated storage condition according to the ICH is 40 degrees Celsius and 75% RH. If you look at the WHO's stability guideline, you will find three storage conditions under the long term, which is 2560, 3065, or 3075. So you can follow any one of these storage conditions in consultation with the geography or the country, because it is not the if you follow 2560 long term conditions, you will be able to sell the product all over the world. No. If you go through the guidelines, at the end of the guideline, you will find the annexure in which the country specific long term condition is mentioned. So, in case if the country says that, oh, this country falls in the zone 1 or 2, you can follow 2560 as a long term, isn't it? But in case if there is a specific requirement that this country falls under maybe zone 3, then 3065 can be the requirement. So this 2560, 3065 or 3075 has to be selected based on to the target country. I hope you understand the WHO's long-term condition requirement. However, the intermediate condition proposed by WHO is 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH. So you can see that the intermediate condition proposed by ICH and WHO is one and the same. So please, one more important point, that in case if you use, let us say 3065 as a long-term condition, according to the ICH requirement, 3065 is also proposed as a long-term condition. In that case, If you follow 3065 as the long-term condition, then there is no need to conduct the intermediate testing, because it also happens at the same storage requirement like 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH. In case of WHO also, if you have 3065 or 3075 as the long-term condition, then there is no necessity to conduct the intermediate testing plan. I hope you understand this important point. And when you look at the accelerated requirement for by WHO, it is again same as according to the ICH, which is 40 degrees Celsius and 75% relative humidity. Now, this is the third guideline, that is the guideline published by ASEAN countries, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So, this group of countries have selected 30 degrees Celsius and 75% RH as the long-term condition. Now look at here, they don't have proposed any intermediate storage condition because their long-term condition itself is much harsher as compared to the intermediate condition proposed by the either ICH or WHO. So for that reason, the ASEAN says no need to conduct the intermediate storage condition. However, the accelerated is required, which is 40 degrees Celsius and 75% RH. In case if you want to know the name of the nations which falls under this ASEAN guideline, you can see over here. Hmm? Like Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and the Vietnam. So these are the 10 countries which has launched or made this particular guideline. I hope you are clear on to the general case storage requirement. Now, if you are clear, let me take you to the next storage condition that is intended to store at a refrigerator, which is 5 degrees Celsius plus or minus 3 degrees Celsius. All right. So this is the point. So what is the storage conditions recommended by ICH? Is again 5 degrees Celsius plus or minus 3 degrees Celsius. There is no as such need of humidity because this product will be stored under the refrigerator condition. So there is no impact of humidity, and as such the humidity is eliminated or removed from the requirement. It is only a temperature which is 5 degrees Celsius plus or minus 3 by ICH also, by WHO also, and by ASEAN also. No intermediate requirement for refrigerator condition. And accelerated, let us now have the discussion. See, if you look at the accelerated conditions proposed by ICH at refrigerator condition, it is 25 degrees Celsius and 60% RH. And you can refer this particular condition from the long term for the general case 2560 or 3065. So one of that has been selected as the accelerated condition in case of the refrigerator storage product. I hope you can able to establish the connection between the point that I've just explained you. This 2560 accelerated requirement mentioned under refrigerator has actually come from the long-term requirement from the general case storage conditions. Let us now move on to the WHO's requirement, and you will find that the long term is 5 degrees Celsius plus or minus 3. There is no intermediate recommended by WHO. And again, this accelerated storage condition 2560, 3065, 3075 is again coming from the long-term condition according to the general case. Now, having this understood, let us move on to the ASEAN's requirement. And they again said the long term is 5 degrees Celsius plus or minus 3, no intermediate required. But what they recommended over here as the accelerated storage condition in case of refrigerator is 25 degrees Celsius and 60% RH. Now, this is something I myself is not able to understand. Because if you look at the ICH or WHO, they have actually proposed the long-term condition available in general case as their accelerated condition in case of this refrigerator. However, if you go with this flow, then the ASEAN should have also recommended the 30 degrees Celsius and 75% RH as the accelerated condition for the refrigerator. But they have just taken 2560, which I am not able to find in the right tune if you look at the ICH and WHO's proposed condition. So I have a question for you, and here is the question. Is 30 degrees Celsius plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius, 75% plus or minus 5% RH a better accelerated condition for ASEAN? This is what I wanted you to answer into a comment box below. Let us now move on to the third storage condition, and that is the intended to store at the freezer, that is minus 20 degrees Celsius. And if you look at the ICH, WHO and ASEAN, they have only recommended long-term storage, that is minus 20 degrees Celsius plus or minus 5, and no other intermediate or accelerated requirement. So it's a very straightforward and same across all these three guidelines. So I will not discuss much about this point, but rather I would like to take some time on discussing the aqueous-based drug product packaged in a semi-permeable container. So what is the storage condition recommended for this particular product, which is an aqueous-based product packaged in a semi-permeable container? So before I move on to the condition discussion, let us understand what is meant by aqueous-based product. See, these are the product which has the major portion coming from the water or the aqua. That is oral solids, injectables. And especially if they are sterile products, you must have seen that there are many sterile products which are aqueous-based product. And in case if they happen to be packaged into a semi-permeable container. Now, what is the definition of semi-permeable container? Now, these are the containers which will allow the passage of only solvent like water, but they will not allow the passage of solid material. It's only a solvent can pass. Solvent can permeate from the container. Then that container will be classified as the semi-permeable container. And the example of semi-permeable container can be polyethylene bag, low density polyethylene that we call LDPE. But again, if the container is not allow the passage of any solute in any situation like liquid, gas or solid, then that container closure system will be classified as the impermeable. Like glass is the classical example of impermeable container. High density polyethylene is the another example of impermeable container. But for now, we are going to talk about the semi-permeable container. So what is the storage conditions recommended for the aqueous-based drug product packaged in a semi-permeable container like polyethylene or LDPE? Let us now understand the ICH recommended storage condition for long term is 25 degrees Celsius and 40% relative humidity. So please understand that I have removed this degree Celsius and percent RH units just to make it quite simplified. Hmm? So alternatively, ICH also says that if the 25 degrees Celsius 40% RH is not suitable, you can go with the harsher condition like 30 degrees Celsius or 35% RH. This is the alternative or optional. You can follow any one of them. If you look at the intermediate storage condition now, or before I move on to the intermediate condition, let us try to understand the logic behind this 25 degrees Celsius and 40% RH. Let me do a small rearrangement, and I would like to move this little up with the intention that I will uh, reveal very soon. Okay, I wanted to have these two conditions on the presentation, the general condition and the aqueous based drug product packaged in semi-permeable container conditions. So if you look at the long-term condition, in case of general case, it is 25 degrees Celsius and 60% RH. However, in case of the aqueous based product, it is 25 degrees Celsius and 40% RH. Now, why do you think ICH has proposed 40% RH in case of aqueous bus product packaged into semi-permeable container. The reason is aqueous based product always has a risk of water loss. Water can get lost out of the container, and because of that some of the performance characteristics of the aqueous based product may get hampered, like osmolality can get hampered, the precipitation can take place because of the loss of water. And in which condition the loss of water is going to happen more? Is it in the humid atmosphere or dry atmosphere? Right? Type in the chat box whether the water loss will be more in case of the humid atmosphere or the dry atmosphere. Absolutely, in case of the dry atmosphere, the water loss is going to be more. Now, to create the dry atmosphere, which humidity is better? Will 60% RH better a dry atmosphere or 40% RH a better dry atmosphere? Right? So, lower is the humidity, you can say that the atmosphere is more dry. So in that context, the 40% RH creates the drier atmosphere as compared to 60% RH. And to challenge this water loss study, it is very obvious, logical that the 40% RH is the best option. In that sense, I completely understand the long-term conditions proposed by ICH for aqueous-based drug product packaged into a semi-permeable container. So before we discuss about the intermediate proposed condition for aqueous-based drug product, which is 30 degrees Celsius and 65%, let us first understand this logic behind this long-term, intermediate and accelerated conditions. You will find that the long-term is the condition in which the product is going to get stored over a period of shelf life. The intermediate condition is what? It is a little harsher as compared to the long-term condition, and the accelerated condition is going to be a more harsher as compared to even the intermediate condition. So 2560, if you compare now, the long-term condition which is 2560 in case of general case and 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH, which one is little harsh according to you? Whether 2560 is harsh or 3065 is harsh. Now, harsh in the sense of what? Now, which condition is going to deteriorate the product much? You can easily say that the 30 degrees Celsius and 65% condition can be harsh as compared to 2560 because there is an increase of 5 degrees Celsius temperature and 5% RH. Similarly, if you look at the accelerated condition, which is 40 degrees Celsius and 75% RH, still there is an increase in temperature, increase in humidity, and the product can get highly challenged in the accelerated condition. Makes complete sense. Let us now take our attention to the aqueous-based drug products packaged in a semi-permeable container. See, the long-term condition is what? 25 degrees Celsius and 40% RH, or 30 degrees Celsius and 35% RH. This is the long-term condition. So what is expected now? The intermediate condition should be a little harsh as compared to the long-term condition. And remember, we are talking about the aqueous-based drug product in which the chances of water loss is much high. The chances of water loss is much high. So I want to ask you, in which condition, either 2540 or 3065, the water loss will be more? Or if you have to really compare apple by apple, apple to apple, 30 degrees Celsius and 35% RH is the long-term condition. And if I consider intermediate at 30 degrees Celsius and 65 RH, now please tell me in the chat box which will bring the more water loss. Will it be 35% RH or will it be 65% RH? Obviously, the 35% RH is going to be much dry environment, and hence this 30 degrees Celsius and 35% RH will have much water loss as compared to 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH. So in that sense, I don't see intermediate proposed condition here is harsher than compared to the long-term condition. Even if you compare 25 degree and 40% RH, till the 40% RH and 65% RH, you can imagine which is where in which condition the water loss is going to be more. So I don't understand myself the logic behind proposing 30 degrees Celsius and 65% RH as the intermediate, especially for the aqueous based drug product packaged in a semi-permeable container. So which condition can be better intermediate condition? According to me, if not, the 30 degrees Celsius and 35% RH would be the better intermediate storage condition. I also wanted to listen from you in a chat box. And then let us understand the last storage condition, that is the accelerated storage condition. So 40 degrees Celsius and not more than 25% RH. It is very much logical that this is the much exaggerated storage condition because 40 degrees Celsius is going to bring that thermal degradation possible, and also this lower humidity like 25% RH is going to bring the lot of much more water loss as compared to your long-term humidity, and the intermediate humidity is anyway questionable according to me. So that way, I completely understand the accelerated storage condition, but still, I have a small doubt over here. See, in case if you look at the any another storage condition, like general case, not general case, but if you look at the long-term condition also, in case of aqueous-based drug product storage in a semi-permeable container, I have not mentioned into the presentation over here, but there are certain variations allowed, which is plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius for temperature and plus or minus 5% RH for the humidity. Like if it is 40 means what, 40% plus or minus 5% relative humidity is allowable. But if you look at the accelerated humidity, all these regulators, ICH, WHO, ACN, they have not given this variation window like plus or minus 5% RH for humidity, but they have only mentioned not more than 25% RH. Not more than 25% RH. Means if you keep the RH as 10%, is it acceptable? That means if you keep the RH as 15%, is it acceptable? So anything below 25% RH, is it acceptable as the humidity condition for the accelerated storage requirement? This is one more change, the difference, not change, but the difference I found in case of humidity requirement. So please also do mention about that into the comment box below. And again, the important question that I asked at the beginning of this particular point is 30 degrees Celsius and 35% RH a better intermediate condition for aqueous based product packaged in a semi-permeable container. I hope you understand the logic behind asking these two important questions, and I look forward to read all your comments. Thank you so much. So keep watching the videos and keep learning.